The point is, though, that mission, is here to help us answer the question, what? It's here to help us align toward one direction. We'll still use that term mission. We love the term values, just because, they're critical to that culture building. In fact, I define values as the shared convictions that bring consistent decisions and ultimately shape the culture, right? You think about, you make decisions according to values enough, and there's a culture that's going to form around it. Your homes, where you're at right now, where you live or work, you look around and how it's decorated, how it's tended to, all those things are shaped by a value. Hey, listen, we have a value. There are nights that dishes sit dirty in our sink for multiple days, just soaking, as Jim Halpert likes to do, because listen, we have a value of, we want to hang out after. If our kids, we have dinner and our kids are actually talking to us and not in the middle of homework and those conversations, we're not going to stop that to do the dishes. We're going to try to figure out a way to continue that on, because we want to be active and present. And so there's a value that shapes how long our dishes sit in the sink, right? Because listen, there's bigger things. And so those consistent decisions shape culture. So even in an early stage for you guys, really articulating your disciple making mission as to the context of where you are. What does it look like to make disciples in our context? How are we responsive to our community? This really comes out of kingdom concept work, guys. You're familiar with that, really understanding, even if you don't understand your collective potential fully yet, because you may not be at a place in your plant where you have this group of people called our congregation that you can kind of look and see. You can speculate, even if you're not in town yet, you can kind of look at some demographics and have kind of a working collect. Hey, who might we be reaching, if we're a healthy church, and kind of extrapolate. I always encourage planners to do that. If you're in the pre-plant or early planting, working through this, then come back around in about 3 to 5 years and stop and go, okay, let's redo this process now, because who is actually here? What has God actually done? In all of our lives, kind of many of the plans of a man's heart, but the Lord determines the steps. And so, I think that's kind of a signal to us. Proverbs 16:9 is a signal to say, hey, listen, work at it, have a plan, move forward, but don't be afraid to take a step back. Don't over-construct values in this season. What are the 2 or 3 most critical values you guys need to make some good, consistent decisions in this stage where you're at right now, whether it's planning, pre-planting, whether you're in pre-service, kind of grouped time, kind of, or whether you're in, some of those early phases, like what are the 2 or 3 most critical values, and then allow culture to develop and add some values if you need to in the next few years, that kind of you run into a decision, man, we really need a value that will help us this, and we can also extrapolate this value will help us answer a lot of others down the road. And so, sometimes I see, guys, and this is all, I'm walking through all of this to the with very, very tenuous words, knowing that I'm about to hear you guys, tell me what you've been thinking about. Somebody may have a list of 8 values, and I've just said only have 2 or 3, and that's okay. These are, I'm sitting outside Nashville, Tennessee. You're where God has called you, so you just know there's no rules on this, right? It is how the Lord is led. But I would always say a best practice is fewer is better at the beginning. What are those really critical ones? One of the ways we love to illustrate this too is to take to think about this as an arrow, where mission is the broadhead, the tip on the end of it, kind of the point that guides, and that the values are the fletching on the back. I used to call them the feathers till I, actually had to look it up and see what it was. I can remember trying to shoot an arrow without one or more of these fins, these fletching on the back of it. And the arrow just kind of goes, wherever it's slightly pointed, or maybe even has a mind of its own without these things. And so values really act as that fletching that just says, hey, listen, this is what keeps us true towards the mission. the mission is that broadhead, that point on the end of it, to do that. So mission and values, I think for you guys right now, are two very, helpful tools to think through. How do we define our disciple making direction? How do we get everybody aligned toward this? And then, what are the disciple shaping values that we place in place here that said, hey, listen, this is some fence lines is another way I'd like to talk about values that help us, kind of make good decisions in a context of what God has called us to be.